There is something happening at DMV offices right now that many older drivers are not hearing about until it is already too late. And that is what worries me. Because I have seen what happens when someone who has driven safely for 40, 50, sometimes even 60 years walks into the DMV expecting one simple renewal and walks out confused, upset, and still without a renewed license. It is not always because they did something wrong. It is not always because they are unsafe. Many times, it is because the rules changed quietly, and nobody warned them clearly enough. If you are 65 or older, or someone you love is, then you need to understand these changes before the next license renewal notice shows up in the mail. Because 3 major rule changes are now affecting older drivers across the country. They can affect your renewal, they can affect your driving privileges, they can affect your wallet, and for some people, they can affect something even more personal than money: their independence. That is the part people do not like saying out loud. A driver's license is not just a card in your wallet. It is the ability to go to the grocery store without asking. It is the ability to get to a doctor appointment. It is the ability to visit your grandchildren. It is the ability to leave the house when you want. And when you are older, that little card can feel like one of the last pieces of independence you still control. So when the DMV suddenly asks for more forms, more tests, more proof, and maybe even medical clearance, it can feel like the ground moved under your feet. I want to be very clear. This is not about scaring you. This is about making sure you are not blindsided. Because the worst place to learn about a new rule is standing at the DMV counter, already tired, already nervous, with a clerk telling you that you cannot finish your renewal today. I have seen that look on people's faces. Confusion first, then frustration, then embarrassment, and finally fear. The fear is not always about the paperwork. It is the quiet thought behind it. What if they don't let me drive anymore? That thought can shake a person, especially someone who has been responsible their whole life. So let me walk you through what is changing, why it matters, and what older drivers need to be ready for before walking into that office. The first major change is the vision screening requirement. Now, most older drivers are used to vision tests. You go to the DMV, you look into that machine, you read letters or numbers, maybe you squint a little, maybe the clerk tells you to try again, and if you pass, you move on. That used to be the whole story. But in many states, it is no longer that simple. More states are now using enhanced vision screenings for drivers 65 and older. And that means they are not only checking whether you can read a line on a chart, they may also be looking at how well you see from the sides. They may be checking your depth perception. They may be checking how well you notice contrast, especially in dim light. And that last one matters more than many people realize. Because driving is not just about seeing clearly in bright daylight. It is about noticing a person crossing the road at dusk. It is about seeing a dark car in the rain. It is about judging how far away another vehicle is before you turn. It is about catching movement from the corner of your eye. And as we get older, these things can change slowly. So slowly that we may not notice them at first. That is the danger. A person may still feel confident, they may still know the roads, they may still have decades of good driving behind them, but confidence does not always measure vision. That is why these new screenings can surprise people. A driver may walk in expecting the old, simple test. Then suddenly they are being evaluated in ways they were not expecting. And if they fail one part of that screening, they may not walk out with a renewed license that day. Instead, they may receive a conditional approval. That usually means they have a limited amount of time to see an eye doctor, get a full exam, and have a vision report sent back to the DMV. For some people, that may be 30 days. For others, it may be 60 or 90 days. It depends on the state. But either way, it adds time. It adds stress. It adds another appointment. And in many cases, it adds another cost. That cost is something many retirees do not expect, because Medicare does not always cover eye exams when they are being done only for a license requirement. So what felt like a simple renewal can suddenly become a doctor visit, a form, a fee, and a deadline. And if you are on a fixed income, even a few unexpected costs can feel heavy. That is why waiting until the last minute is risky. If your license expires soon and you fail part of the new screening, you may be stuck trying to get an eye appointment quickly. And anyone who has tried to schedule with a specialist lately knows that quick is not always quick anymore. You may wait weeks. And if your expiration date is close, that waiting can put real pressure on you. This is where many older drivers get into trouble, not because they are careless, because they assumed the renewal would be just like last time. But last time is not always the rule anymore. The second major change is the in-person renewal requirement. This one is frustrating many people. For years, some states allowed drivers to renew online or by mail if they met certain conditions. That was helpful. It saved time, it saved travel, it saved older drivers from standing in long lines or driving to offices far away. But many states are now taking that option away for older drivers. In some places, once you reach 65, 70, or 75, you may be required to renew in person every time. No mail renewal, no online shortcut, no easy option from home. And in some states, the renewal cycle itself becomes shorter as you get older. A license that once lasted 8 years may now need renewal every 4 years. In some cases, every 2 years. That may not sound like much to someone younger, but for an older driver, it can be a major burden. Think about someone living in a rural area. The nearest DMV may be 30, 40, or 50 miles away. That trip takes planning. Maybe they do not like highway driving anymore. Maybe they avoid heavy traffic. Maybe they need someone to go with them. Maybe they have medical appointments, caregiving duties, or mobility problems. A simple renewal becomes half a day, sometimes more. And then there is the paperwork. This is where many people get turned away. They bring what they think is enough, their current license, a renewal notice, maybe one bill, maybe their Medicare card. Then the clerk asks for a different proof of residency, or a Social Security document, or a birth certificate, or a passport, or a paper statement instead of something shown on a phone. And just like that, the trip is wasted. I know people who have driven all the way to the DMV only to be told they brought the wrong kind of bill. Not no proof, the wrong proof. That is the kind of thing that makes people feel foolish. But they are not foolish. The system has simply become more complicated. And here is the part many older drivers do not realize. The in-person renewal is not always just about documents. In some states and offices, DMV employees may also observe how a person handles the process. They may notice whether the person seems confused by basic questions. They may notice whether the person struggles to complete forms. They may notice whether the person has difficulty walking, reading, hearing, or following instructions. Now, this does not automatically mean someone will lose their license, but it can raise a flag. And if a flag is raised, the DMV may require additional steps. That could mean a written test, it could mean a road test, it could mean a medical evaluation, it could mean a driver improvement course. That is why preparation matters so much. Because when people are nervous, they can look confused even when they are not. When people are rushed, they can make mistakes. When people are embarrassed, they may answer poorly. And one small moment at the counter can turn into a bigger problem. This is not about pretending to be younger. It is about walking in ready. Documents organized, questions answered clearly. No guessing. No scrambling through a purse or glove box. No panic. That kind of preparation can make the whole experience smoother. The third major change is the medical certification requirement. This is the one that causes the most anxiety, because it feels personal. In some states, drivers over a certain age may be required to submit medical clearance from a physician as part of the renewal process. And this is not always a simple note saying, "My patient is healthy." It may be a specific state form. The doctor may need to answer detailed questions about medical conditions, medications, physical ability, mental alertness, and whether anything could affect safe driving. That can include diabetes, heart conditions, stroke history, seizures, sleep apnea, vision problems, memory concerns, certain medications, balance issues, reaction time, and anything else the state considers relevant to driving safety. For many older drivers, that feels uncomfortable because health is private and aging already makes people feel watched. Suddenly, something you manage quietly with your doctor becomes part of a government form. That is not easy, and it can feel unfair if you have been managing a condition responsibly for years. Maybe you have diabetes under control. Maybe you had one low blood sugar episode months ago. Maybe you take medication that has never affected your driving. Maybe you had heart trouble years ago and have been stable since. But once those things appear on a form, the DMV may review them more carefully. That review can lead to restrictions. Sometimes a person may be allowed to drive only during daylight. Sometimes they may need more frequent renewals. Sometimes they may need further testing. Sometimes they may need a doctor's follow-up. And in some cases, they may face a difficult conversation about whether they should still be driving in the same way they always have. That is hard to hear. It is hard for the driver. It is hard for the family. It is hard for the doctor. Because a doctor signing that form is not just being kind. They are making a professional statement. They are saying whether they believe a person is medically fit to drive. That carries responsibility. So if there are real concerns, a doctor may not simply sign off. They may ask for further testing. They may suggest limits. They may write down concerns that the DMV must then review. And this is where older drivers need to be careful. Do not treat the medical form like a small favor to ask at the end of a routine appointment. Make a dedicated appointment. Bring the form. Talk honestly. Ask what the doctor is concerned about. Ask whether medications could affect driving. Ask whether vision, balance, blood sugar, memory, or sleep could create issues. It is better to have that conversation early than to be surprised later. And this is where families also need to be honest. Not cruel, not controlling, honest. Because sometimes the driver is the last person to notice the change. That is not an insult. It is human. We all adjust to ourselves slowly. We explain away little things, a missed turn, a dented mailbox, a close call in a parking lot, a moment of confusion at an intersection. We say, it happens. And sometimes it does. But sometimes those small moments are telling us something. The goal should never be to take independence away without reason, but it should also never be to protect pride at the cost of safety. That is the balance, and it is not easy. Now, one important thing must be understood. These rules are not exactly the same in every state. That is where confusion grows. California may handle older driver renewals differently than Florida. Florida may handle them differently than Texas. Texas may handle them differently than New York. Some states have stricter vision requirements. Some require in-person renewals sooner. Some require medical forms only under certain conditions. Some shorten renewal periods after a certain age. Some have not changed much yet. But the trend is clear. More states are paying closer attention to older driver renewals, and more older drivers are being asked for extra proof, extra testing, or extra medical information. That means relying on memory is not enough. What happened during your last renewal may not happen this time. What your neighbor did may not apply to you. What someone said at church or the senior center may be outdated. The only thing that matters is what your state requires now. That one word is important. Now. Not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. Now. Because rules can change quietly, and the DMV is not always good at explaining those changes before you arrive. That is why older drivers need to check early. Look at the expiration date on the license. Then check the state DMV website. Call if the website is confusing. Ask specifically about requirements for your age group. Ask whether renewal must be in person. Ask what documents are required. Ask whether a vision screening is required. Ask whether a doctor's form is needed. Ask whether there are shorter renewal periods after a certain age. Write down the answers. Keep them with your license papers. And start early. Not 1 week before expiration, not 2 days before. Early. 3 or 4 months early is not unreasonable. That may sound like too much time, but if you need an eye appointment, a doctor appointment, paperwork mailed, or a form corrected, that time disappears quickly. And if there is one thing older drivers do not need, it is a deadline pressing on them while they are trying to solve a paperwork problem. Now, I know some people hear all this and feel angry. They think, I have driven safely my whole life. They think, I have no tickets. They think, young people are the ones texting and speeding. And there is truth in that frustration. Many older drivers are careful. Many are more responsible than younger drivers. Many avoid risky situations. They do not drive late at night. They do not race through traffic. They know the roads. They respect the car. So it can feel insulting to be questioned just because of age. That feeling is real. But there is another side to this. Driving is not only about experience, it is also about reaction, vision, judgment, medical stability, attention, and physical ability. A driver may have 60 years of experience, but if eyesight has changed, or reaction time has slowed, or a medication causes drowsiness, then experience alone may not be enough. That is not an attack on older people. That is reality, and reality must be faced carefully. Because a car is not a small thing. It is a heavy machine moving at dangerous speed. One missed stop sign can change a life. One bad left turn can hurt someone forever. One moment of confusion can create consequences that no family is ready for. That is why these rules exist. Not perfectly, not always kindly, not always clearly, but the purpose is safety. For the driver, for pedestrians, for families, for everyone on the road. And here is the truth nobody enjoys hearing. For some people, these new checks may reveal that driving needs to change. Not end completely, but change. Maybe no night driving. Maybe no long highway trips. Maybe no driving in storms. Maybe no unfamiliar routes. Maybe someone else drives to medical appointments in busy areas. Those limits can feel painful, but sometimes limits are not failure. Sometimes limits are wisdom. The goal is not to prove we are the same at 75 as we were at 45. The goal is to stay safe while keeping as much independence as possible. That is the healthier way to think about it. Because pretending nothing has changed does not protect independence. It can destroy it faster. One serious accident can take away everything at once: your license, your confidence, your savings, your peace, maybe even someone else's life. No amount of pride is worth that. So the smartest path is not fear, and it is not denial. It is preparation. Know the rules, check your vision early, talk to your doctor honestly, organize your documents. Do not wait until expiration is close. Do not assume online renewal will be available. Do not assume the DMV will accept the same documents as before. Do not assume your health form will be signed without discussion. These are not hard things because you are incapable. They are important things because the process has changed. And when the process changes, the prepared person has the advantage. That is what this really comes down to. Not age, not pride, not fear. Preparation. Because a person who knows what is coming walks into that office differently. They are calmer. They answer more clearly. They have the right papers. They know whether they need an eye exam. They know whether they need a doctor form. They are not shocked by the questions. And that matters. It matters more than people think. So if your license renewal is coming within the next 6 months, do not wait. Look at your state's requirements now. Make the appointments now. Gather the papers now. And if you help an older parent, spouse, neighbor, or friend, Do not wait until they are already upset. Sit with them. Check the expiration date. Go through the requirements. Help them print what they need. Help them make the calls. Not in a way that makes them feel helpless, in a way that protects their dignity. Because dignity matters here, a lot. Older drivers do not need to be treated like children. They need clear information. They need patience. They need time. And they need to understand that these new rules do not have to mean the end of independence. But ignoring them can create real problems. That is the warning. The vision screening may be more detailed. The renewal may have to be in person. The medical form may be more serious than expected, and every state may handle it differently. But the one thing that stays the same is this: you are in a much better position when you know before you go. So do not let the DMV surprise you. Do not let a missing document send you home. Do not let an outdated eye prescription put your renewal at risk. Do not let a medical form become a last-minute crisis. And do not let pride keep you from making small adjustments that could keep you driving safely longer. Your independence matters. Your safety matters. And so does the safety of every person who shares the road with you. The rules have changed, but being prepared still gives you power. And for older drivers, that preparation may be the difference between walking out with confidence and walking out with questions nobody warned you to answer.